Hey everyone, Alan here. Just doing a video about a response or comment to the question post today, and a couple of people were maybe looking at tightening things up a little bit or having a kind of stricter outlook between now and Christmas. So this will lead into kind of like a kind of nutrition challenge, if you will. And before that, though, in general, like this is going to be optional for people. Again, like there's different levels in terms of accountability and strictness as well, and some things will suit some people and not everyone. So it's not going to be like a one fit all approach. So for those of you that were interested in like really being a little bit stricter and getting that more specific feedback and being a little tighter on the nutrition stuff, this is what we'll do, because I've been trying to think to how best to kind of solve that. So one thing is, in terms of the first thing we're going to look for is more information. So to give a bit of a background on the pictures and images in terms of nutrition and why that's so important, like the number one objective of providing pictures of meals is accountability. So accountability in the sense that I'm taking, like, number one, I'm going to be taking a picture of this meal. You have triggers in your head that says, right, I better make it good. I'm going to be taking a picture of it, I'm tracking it, I'm recording it. That's the step one. Step two is like it's accountability to the group and accountability to us, that you're keeping on board, that you're following the plan, that you're with us, you're part of the group, you're doing all of that. So the biggest thing is accountability. And like that's the main objective. Similarly with workouts, the objective is that we know that you're working out, you're doing your workouts, and we can see that, and you're checking in and all of that. But again, two people can comment and say that they've done their workout. One person may have stopped for 20 minutes during it, another person may have done 8 pounds instead of 4 pounds or whatever. So there's always going to be individual variances. And when it comes to the nutrition, particularly with the pictures, like one picture or even a group of pictures doesn't necessarily give me enough information per day. So again, it can be, like I've done it before, where I could post a picture of a meal, but I could have had 2 or 3 bad meals that day that I haven't taken pictures of. Or I could have, I could have had seconds that aren't pictured, or I could have done other things that aren't pictured. So it's not necessarily only that aspect, that things just aren't pictured, but it doesn't really, I can have a good meal one day, but I could have had a terrible day. It doesn't really give me enough information in the grand scheme of things. So what I'm kind of proposing for that, for those of you that are looking to tighten things up and maybe like being a little bit stricter, is providing more information essentially when it comes to that. So, and again, this isn't for everyone, like particularly like for tracking calories and everything like that. You don't necessarily need to do that if you're following the principles. If you're eating protein every meal, if you're really vegetable based, like veg heavy meals, if you're restricting your carbohydrate intake to that post training window, you're taking your recovery shake. If you're hitting your principles at a minimum level, we should be creating a calorie deficit. You should be able to see fat loss and have the plan work perfectly. If it's a case that we're hitting plateaus, or people are moving into maintenance, or people are looking to get a little stricter or tighter, this is what essentially we'll do. So what the first step would be, everyone in that group or that wants to do that little bit more, you have to do the calorie challenge, number one, to figure out how many calories you need per day. Again, like portion sizes, all of that stuff doesn't really matter if you're eating too much calories, or like you can, like if you eat too many calories, you can be eating the healthiest meals. You could put up pictures of meals, you could put up 5 or 6 pictures of your food that day. It can look perfect, but if it's too many calories, you're going to gain weight. So it has to fit into that calorie model first. So do the calorie challenge, check how many calories you need, and report that. I don't want people tracking calories every single day. You don't necessarily need to, but you need to have done it for 5 to 7 days to figure out what it takes to eat within your calories, what a certain amount of calories actually looks like. I mean, I don't track my calories daily, but I've done it enough times to know that if I have a pretty standard breakfast smoothie, which is pretty regular that I have a lunch, and I can eyeball the portions in terms of I'll have my protein, I'll have my veg, I'll have my carbs if I need. Same with the dinner and one other snack. So whatever variation of those meals I have, I know if I hit those 4 big meals, I'll be under my calories and I'm perfect. When I'm not tracking, or I end up having a bit more or seconds and all that, that's when you kind of go out. So if I ever need to get it back in check again, I'll revisit my fitness pal or just tighten up again and revert back to that base. But if you don't know what your base is, what's too much, what's too little, like in terms of calories, then you're kind of like, we're all working off a half deck. Then you don't necessarily have enough information to know if it's right or wrong, say. So that'll be the number one thing, to figure out the calories, and then secondly is to check the calories and see how many calories you're eating each day. So when you're posting, what I'm going to get you to do in that group, say, is at the end of the day, post pictures of all of your meals, or all the meals you've taken pictures of, but definitely track everything for the day. And with that post up, how many calories you've eaten that day, how many grams of protein you've eaten that day, and these are the meals, whether it was a training day, non-training day, whether a meal was like a P1, P2, all of that information as well. So then we can kind of see, and again, people are good at saying what P1, P2, but we can probably get better in terms of saying, non-training day, maintenance or fat loss, P1, P2, breakfast, lunch, dinner, here's the things. So then if I see like an entire day's food like that and maybe calories are high, then it makes it easier to be like, well, look, breakfast looks like that was maybe too big of a meal. Maybe having less avocado is going to bring down your fats and calories in that meal, say. If you're struggling to hit a protein intake, well then, and I can see pictures there that like protein today was only 50 grams and lunch was like a lower protein meal, then that might be an area to plug in there. But it just needs to have that little bit of extra information. And I know I've sent that to a few of you in messages privately recently. So like if we can have more information, the more information you provide, the better. So whether it's just between now and Christmas or whatever, if we can tighten that up, again, optionally for people that want to like tighten things up a little bit or get that little bit extra out of the exact things. Number one, check the amount of calories and post how many calories you've had that day, particularly that first 5 to 7 days. After that, you should be able to eyeball how many calories you need. And then like the glaringly obvious things like I put a post up like sausages, fried eggs and stuff like that creep in. We'll pull out on them things. But the overall thing, like when you post a picture of a meal, obviously we can see if a meal is obviously bad, or you can see if a meal is maybe obviously wrong or something. If it's a case that it's like, I don't know, like a bowl of Frosties on a non-training day or something like that, that's glaringly obvious like that. But for a standard enough meal that for someone that's more or less following the principles, it's impossible to say whether something is like too big, too small or whatever, because there's no more context given in terms of that day. If that's a training day, then it might be appropriate. If that's a big breakfast but you had a small lunch dinner, then that can be appropriate too. So the number one thing is the overall big picture, how many calories per day, and this will really kind of get people back in gear on that side of things, so that will be really good. I'll put up a template in terms of like what would be the really good valuable information. If you are tracking on MyFitnessPal, posting a screenshot of that day would be really beneficial. And along with even like weight and weight in terms of like progress as weight is progressing. But again, it's optional. But for those of you that kind of mentioned it and talked about maybe getting like tighter for Christmas and a little bit stricter, this is going to make that be feasible, I guess, in terms of that. So like, instead of like only having like the really obvious things that stand out, like get in really detailed an exact amount. Like the two biggest questions you need to ask yourself every day is, did I eat in a calorie deficit, or like did I go over or under on my calories? And like most people can kind of guess if they have or haven't, but did I stay within my calories, and did I eat enough protein? Really, if we can answer those two questions every day, you can't go wrong. So yeah, I open the feedback there. Any questions, comments, let me know. But I'll post up a template after this video with a little bit of a stricter guideline on what would be really beneficial to have.